was interesting. A young Scotsman who came down to this conference in London where I met my wife, and it was quite an experience meeting with large groups of young Christians, and the teaching was tremendous. I don't know what attracted Bobbie to me. I don't know what attracted me to her. But one thing was sure is that she made her intentions sure, and so did I. It was a time when we met, and on the last evening of this convention where all these young people were, I asked her out to go just for a walk and to be walked down to the seafront at Eastbourne and walk back. And she said, would you like to come up to London tomorrow as we travel back? Well, I had to go to London anyway to catch the Starlight Special, as it was called in those days. And it was a train that travelled overnight from Euston, and we went, and we agreed to say, yes, we'll do it. Well, I hadn't very much money in my pocket. I didn't get paid very much as an apprentice, and I only got 2 weeks holiday a year. So anyway, in those days, it was quite an ordeal for me to come down to London, where Bobbie was training as a nurse. And so sometimes I used to hitchhike it. And I could even work out how long it would take me to get from Motherwell to London. It was an amazing time when I would come up and down the country. I had special meetings with people in cars, and I had one opportunity where this man, the snow was really blizzard-style snow. I could hardly keep warm. I got into a telephone kiosk, and I stayed in there trying to heat up, waiting in a car coming to take me right between Scott's Corner and Penrith. And so it was just one of those things that as I was waiting, I seen these lights coming. I'd been travelling an hour in the snow. And next thing was that he pulled up. He says, where are you going? I says, I'm going to London. He says, okay. He says, how long have you been walking? I said, for about the last hour. He said, right. He says, are you a student? I said, yes. He says, what kind of student are you? I hadn't even got in his car at this time. I said, I'm a Bible student. I'm at Bible college. Huh, that's good. He says, we're going to have an argument on the way down. He says, what has taken you so long in God acting for you to give you a lift? And I turned around and said, it was because you were late. And that was an eye-opener to him. We discussed God, we discussed everything about Christianity, all the way down. And there was one or two points in his life where he knows that he needed to become a Christian. It was an amazing time. Bobbie and I decided that she was going to come up to Glasgow to do further her training when she qualified in London as an SRN. She came up to Glasgow to do her midwifery in a place called Rotten Row. That's where all the malformed babies were born and so on. It was a difficult time. She worked in Gorbals, and she would travel down into the Gorbals to deliver these babies in the middle of the night. And because she wasn't afraid, but she was always careful. And she used to walk into the Gorbals down from the hospital to deliver these babies. And in her hand, she would have her bag that she would need. And then in the other hand, she would have a huge hat pin with her, just in case somebody attacked her. And she would deliver the babies. And sometimes the babies that she delivered, there was nowhere for them to go. There'd be one room, and there'd be 6 children in this room. And she said, if you get anywhere to put a cot or anything, they said no. So Bobbie took out a drawer, and she lined it with clothing and so on to put the baby in it. And she knew that by the time she got down the bottom of the stairs, that baby would be in bed with the mother, because there were lots of cot deaths in those days. Anyway, during this time, Bobbie and I broke up, and we had a year separated. I met another girl and so on. And anyway, God spoke to me again and told me that I had to go to Bible college. And during this time, I thought I really should tell Bobbie that I'm going to Bible college. So I went to the hospital, and you couldn't go into the nurses' quarters. You had to stand outside on the street till the matron went and called Bobbie, and she would get Bobbie down, and I think the matron was standing inside the hallway in case I crept in. But the thing is this, that we spoke outside, and I told Bobbie that I was going to Bible college, and she says, well, I'm going to Bible college too. God's spoken to me. And I says, oh, what college are you going? She's BTI. I says, that's the college I'm going to. Oh, she says, I'll have to pray about this. Anyway, Bobbie spoke to Mr. Macbeth, who was the principal of the college, later on. And she decided, and he advised her to go to a college nearer London. So she went to Emmanuel Bible College, and I went to BTI. And one of the reasons she felt was that if I was there and she was at the same college, there wouldn't be much work done or studying. So anyway, I was going to Bible college. I applied for a grant from the local education authority, and they turned round and they sent me a letter the day I was going into Bible college. And I got this letter, and it says that they would not support me in a grant. And they felt because of my educational standard in my life, it wasn't a good school I'd gone to. It wasn't, we had to leave when we were 15. And there was no further education for me at that time. And one thing he said, that we advise you not to go ahead with this venture as you're uneducated for this venture. So that was fine. I still went in. I didn't have any money. When I got to the college, there was a letter there for me. And it was from Bobbie. And she didn't even know that I had not got a grant or anything. But in it, the letter was there, and there was a £5 note. And it says in the letter, my God shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory. And that was where I started living by faith. I only had £42 in the bank, and that wasn't even the first term's money, without buying my books and so on. Anyway, I went there and I lived by faith day by day. And sometimes I would get £1. My church only, they didn't give me a penny. One man in the church gave me, in the first year, £3. In the second year, he gave me £1.50. My parents never gave me any money. And so my trust was in the Lord right from the very beginning. But God was teaching me something, and I didn't understand at the time. All I felt the pain was that I didn't have the money for my fees. And I prayed, and sometimes I would pray, Lord, nobody here in this college knows that I'm not getting a grant. Nobody at home knows that I'm not getting a grant. I didn't even tell my parents. It so happened that I said, God, just give me a sign that you have called me to the Bible college. And the following day, there's a letter there, and we had all these pigeonholes for our mail. And this letter was in it, and there was 2 shillings in the letter. I says, oh God, I need a lot more than this. And I believe that you called me. And I trust you, but I need more. Would you please give me a bigger portion of money for my college? It was there that was a day later, or 2 days later, I spoke to someone in the college, and they came up to me quite angrily, and he said, I've had to wrestle with God for 3 weeks, and God has told me to give you a sum of money, and I don't like you, and I didn't really want to give it to you. So I said, oh, okay. But she said, I'm going to give you anyway. This was a girl who came from actually Scotland, who had been in the Navy. But she didn't have any problems with money and so on. Anyway, she came up and she gave me an envelope, and it was £28. I went back to my room, thank God for the gift. I said, God, I really need another sign from you to say that you have called me to this Bible college. The next day, I got an envelope, and inside the envelope was 2 shillings again. And I've never doubted God ever since. It's been quite a thing being at Bible college. And some of the people that I've rubbed shoulders with who have gone all over the world. And there's one student there, a chap named Peter Bobbie. He was in the football team. He was a good footballer. I was the captain of the football team at the time. And he didn't know the significance of what he was writing. But I will tell you in a moment. But I want you to know that at that time God started to speak to me while I was at Bible college, saying that I would build a house for him. And it would be a sure house. And I'm going to read what Peter wrote to me in the college. It's here. I have it in this booklet here that various students wrote in it for me. It says, with gratitude for fellowship during happy days and training at the BTI, for service in his kingdom. And he wrote Haggai 1, verse 7 and 8. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house. To that end may we ever find grace to work. And that was from Peter Bobbie. And it wasn't until later years I seen the fulfillment of it when we were going to build the building. BTI was a tremendous time for me. I worked in the Gorbals where Bobbie had been delivering babies. The tenement buildings were still in a bombed out condition, and this was in 61 to 63. It was still bombed. And they were trying to get all the people out of the Gorbals anyway and send them to Easter House, where they were going to be living there. 55,000 people went there. And there was only one school, one pub, one church, and one fish and chip shop. You couldn't get any schooling until you were 9 years of age. We're talking about in our lifetime, and you find that strange. It was a time where I was able to take young people out to the countryside, to Loch Lomond, to the Campsie Fells and so on. I was able to teach them, train them. I offered my services to work with the church right in the heart of the Gorbals with the Boys Brigade. And I would take all the children off the street at that time. I'd get them into the church hall. And one of the things is I would take Catholics and Protestants. And there was another officer who was actually, who'd only come on a Sunday, but he had never turned up through the week. And I was running the Boys Brigade. And there was about 40 young men in that group. And I'd started with only a handful. And they were a bit fighting between the Catholics and the Protestants. And I said to them, I said, so if you can beat me, you can fight amongst yourself. And suddenly, 40 youngsters all charged at me. And we fought in the middle of the hall. I mean, you couldn't get away with it these days. But I ended up putting them all in a pile on the floor, one on top of the other. But I was gaining respect from them day by day. They were good lads. But one of the things that happened was the other officer, because he found out they were Catholics, he sent half of them out, and I would get them off the street the next week and bring them back in. But our heart wasn't just for the Boys Brigade, it was to see them won for Christ. And the motto of the Boys Brigade is the advancement of Christ's kingdom amongst boys. And that was my heart. During these days that I found that I was able to do preaching, do outreach, and do many effective things. During the time at college, I was able to go and meet up with lots of youngsters, particularly in the town of Kelso, where we had a mission. And it gave me a desire to see souls saved and seeing these young people coming in. I'd be out in the street most nights looking for them, bringing them back. God was good. He allowed me to reach them, and I met some of the students that I was training with in a different light. We were working shoulder to shoulder, seeking the lost and wanting them won for Christ.